All right, what's up, YouTube? So I took a lot of video of what I was doing as far as like the truck modifications, engine building, the heads, the valves, this type of cylinders, the crank, rods, all that good stuff. But I seem to have lost all of my footage, so I went ahead and collected a bunch of pictures of just the engine building. Um, and I put it together, and I'm going to do a voiceover. I know it sucks, but it's better than anything and then nothing. I mean, I can imagine. But I guess here we go with the first picture you're gonna see is a picture of everything already taken apart. It's the crankshaft main bearing, so it's what the crank rides on in the block. You can see the one on the left is pretty beat up, and the one on the right's all right. So what happened was the oil got diluted with fuel from cranking it over and over again on the wrong harness, the wrong engine harness. So it wasn't firing correctly as to the firing order from the PCM to the firing order at the engine, because pigtails are swapped in F-150 to Mustang engines. The second photo is the head after I removed it. It's got all the valves. It's got the rollers, the lash adjusters, and the roller followers. And then the next photo is the head after I took it apart and cleaned it with the oil gone or something like that. And the picture after that one is the head after I cleaned it. I sent them off to get resurfaced. And then you see the valves. So the one on the left is before I cleaned it, and the one on the right is after I cleaned it, and then I gave it a polish with just normal, I think it was Mother's mag and aluminum polish, I guess. I'm not 100% sure. And then you see the head. I put the valves back in and new valve seals. And I mean, it seemed hard at first to do, kind of, but not really. It was just straightforward. I bought this little tool right here. You'll see on the next slide it's on the top right hand corner of the head. It's a black billet or aluminum piece of material with 4 bolts that bolt onto where the cam caps hold the cams in place. You use these 4 bolts. It holds it in place, and then you can do 4 valves at one time, or not at one time, but at a time. But you can do 4, so you move it once and then twice, and you're done. And here is the block. It's empty. I installed the oil squirter block offs. Now that I think of it, I probably should have left them on, because the pistons that I used right here have the reliefs to use the oil squirters. So I mean, it wouldn't hurt, but that doesn't do any damage. And these are the SP3 5FX from SRP. It's a line from JE Pistons. I got a new crank. It's a new Boss 302 crank. It's forged just like all Coyote cranks. And then I went ahead and installed here the main bearings from King Racing Bearings. They got I think a little bit more clearance. I think a 1/1000th more extra of clearance for more oil film, more protection. And so far they've worked fine from what I can see. And these are the piston with the rod put together. So I used the JE or SRP pistons. They're 2340 material, I believe. And then billet Molnar rods is what you're seeing right there. If they're real billet, I am not sure, but this rotating assembly kit is supposed to hold 1200 horsepower. Then we have this photo of me putting the pistons with the pins and the rods together. The little the lock wires that go in here are a super pain in the ass. That go where the pin, to hold the pin in place. And this is the crank seated in the block. You can see on the left hand side there's a plug weld on the crank. That had to be done in order to run these pistons and rod combo. You have to balance the crank to the rotating assembly, or if not, you'll make some severe damage to your engine internals. And then those are the the main caps. You can see they have the OEM, not studs, they're bolts. They're not studs. But I took those out and got ARP. I wasn't gonna risk it, and I threw ARP on it, and it worked nice because they're reusable. And here you can see I had 3 pistons in the block already. I was missing the 4th one. So what happened here on the number 4 was actually it's number 1. What happened was I broke the top piston ring when I was going over the cylinder, so that messed it up pretty bad. It just broke in half, so I ordered a new set, and that's why you see that missing there. These are the 4 pistons, all on the I believe that's the driver's side. Yeah, driver's side. And this is just a regular Ford Motorcraft head gasket, but I bought some copper spray, better sealing, whatever they call it. I just sprayed it on there, put 2 coats on and let them dry, and then I installed the heads. And here you can see the head is on the block. You can't see the block really because the head is pretty much the size of the block. You can see the ARP heads, studs, and the springs are installed. It's ready to go for the cams. Obviously, I have to put the hydraulic lash adjusters in the followers. And then here's both heads installed. Again, everything ARP. And then here's where I stabbed the 4 cams, intake and exhaust cams on both sides. And right here's just a aerial view of the cams on the driver's side. And here we have, I already put the sprockets, BTC, I mean the VCT, VCT, I'm tired, VCT phasers, and the chains, the guides, sprocket, oil pump gears. I use the same oil pump gears, the MMR, along with the sprocket. Here's another shot. And this is when so you see the tensioner on the right is the stock tensioner, and the one on the left is the Whipple billet tensioner, which has way more force on the belt than the stock Motorcraft tensioner on it. With the Power by the Hours bracket, accessory bracket kit, you have to use the one on the right, the Motorcraft one. So I did away with everything, minus the AC compressor relocation kit from PBH, and I just mounted everything as if it was a Mustang, and everything fit. The alternator does come extremely close to the steering, not the rack, but, well, yeah, the steering rack, where the rod goes from the steering wheel into the rack. That little socket, it's really close to that, but it's not enough to hit up against there, cause any false knock, which I'm happy about. And then here you can see the bracket. Thank you. Here you can see the bracket for the Shelby Whipple installed. You can see the tensioner, and if you use the Power by the Hour bracket, you use the stock location of the tensioner, and you don't, it's a different plate, it's a different bracket, so you can't use any of that. And this to me seemed more favorable belt wrap around the supercharger pulley, so I used I wanted to use this. And you can see the alternator back in its stock location, and then I used the pulley on the alternator. It's a bigger overdrive pulley for the alternator so that it lives, I guess, because it shifts at 78, maybe 8,000 RPMs. You'll kill the alternator real quick on that. And then here we have the block assembled up, just missing the top end, I guess the intake, the lower manifold of the supercharger. All I did to pick it up with the cherry picker or the engine hoist is a 2x2 inch angle iron. I cut it, drilled 2 holes in it on each side, 1 hole on each side, and I put the 10 millimeter bolts on each side, and it was plenty to pick that engine up and throw it in the truck. I had no issues at all. And then here we have the oil. Oil is very, very important. So this is conventional 5W30, but it's break-in oil. It's specifically to break in all these new parts. So what I did on my wife's truck when I first bought it was drain the oil out ASAP, threw some of this in there, filled it up, ran it for about 500, 600 miles, drained it, and then put the regular Motorcraft 520 in it, and it's ran phenomenal since then. It's got 90,000 miles on it, no issues. It's had a tune in its entire life. E85 and 93, it's a flex tune. And that's it. That's summing up the whole engine build. Majority of it. I mean, there was a lot of late nights on this engine, but you get the point. This is just like the I guess whatever. This is what I had basically. This is what I took photos of. So what you see is what you get, and then I'll have an update on some more stuff as we go along. Thanks for watching. Keep an eye out for the next video to come out.